Drugged driving is driving a vehicle whereas impaired thanks to the intoxicating effects of recent drug use. It will create driving an automobile unsafe, a bit like driving when drinking alcohol. Driving under the influence driving puts the driving force, passengers, and others who share the road at serious risk. Why is driving while on a drug is dangerous? The effects of specific medicine on driving skills take issue betting on however they act within the brain. As an example, marijuana will slow time interval, impair judgment of your time and distance, and reduce coordination. Drivers who have used hard drug or pep pill is aggressive and reckless once driving. Bound styles of prescription medicines, together with benzodiazepines and opioids, will cause sleepiness, dizziness, and impair psychological feature functioning, thinking and judgment. All those effects will cause vehicle crashes. Research studies have shown negative effects of marijuana on drivers, together with a rise in lane weaving, poor time interval, and altered attention to the road. Use of alcohol with marijuana makes drivers additional impaired, inflicting even additional lane weaving. 1 to 3 Some studies report that opioids will cause sleepiness and impair thinking and judgment. 4-5 different studies have found that being underneath the influence opioids whereas driving will double your risk of getting a crash. 6. It is troublesome to work out however specific medicine influence driving because of individuals tend to combine numerous substances, together with alcohol. However, we tend to do apprehend that even little amounts of some medicine will have a measurable impact. As a result, some states have zero-tolerance laws for narcotized driving. This suggests someone will face charges for driving underneath the influence, DUI, if there's any quantity of drug within the blood or body waste. Many nations are waiting to develop laws till analysis will higher outline blood levels that indicate impairment, like those they use with alcohol. How many individuals take medication and drive? According to the 2018 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, NSDUH, in 2018, 20.5 million individuals aged 16 or older drove underneath the influence of alcohol within the past year and 12.6 million drove underneath the influence of illicit medication. The survey conjointly showed that men square measure additional probably than girls to drive underneath the influence of medication or alcohol. The next share of adults aged 21 to 25 drive once doping up or drinking than do young adults aged 16 to 20 or adults 26 or older. Which medication square measure joined to intoxicated driving? After alcohol, marijuana is that the drug most frequently found within the blood of drivers concerned in crashes. Tests for detection marijuana in drivers live the amount of delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, marijuana's psychoactive ingredient, within the blood. However, the role that marijuana plays in crashes is usually unclear. Psychoactive substance will be detected in body fluids for days or maybe weeks once use, and it's usually combined with alcohol. The vehicle crash risk related to marijuana together with alcohol, cocaine, or benzodiazepines seems to be larger than that for every drug by itself. Several studies have shown that drivers with psychoactive substance in their blood were roughly double as probably to be to blame for a deadly crash or be killed than drivers. United Nations agency hadn't used medication or alcohol. However, an oversized NHTSA study found no important augmented crash risk traceable to marijuana once dominant for drivers' age, gender, race, and presence of alcohol. Additional analysis is required. Along with marijuana, prescribed drugs are ordinarily joined to intoxicated driving crashes. In 2016, 19.7% of drivers United Nations agency drove whereas underneath the influence tested positive for a few styles of opioid. How usually will intoxicated driving cause crashes? It's onerous to live what percentage crashes square measure caused by intoxicated driving. This can be because a good margin check for drug levels within the body does not nevertheless exist. Some medicine will keep in your system for days or weeks once used, creating it tough to see once the drug was used, and thus, however and if it impaired driving. Many drivers World Health Organization cause crashes square measure found to own each medicine and alcohol or quite one drug in their system, creating it onerous to understand that substance had the bigger impact. However, per the Governor's Road Safety Association, 43.6% of fatally wounded drivers in 2016 tested positive for medicine, and over half those drivers were positive for 2 or additional medicine. What population square measure particularly tormented by intoxicated driving? Teen and older adult drivers square measure most frequently tormented by intoxicated driving. Teen square measure less tough and square measure additional probably than different drivers to underestimate or not acknowledge dangerous things. They're conjointly additional probably to hurry and permit less distance between vehicles. Once lack of driving expertise is combined with drug use, the results are often tragic. Automobile crashes square measure the leading explanation for death among children aged 16 to 19 years. A study of faculty students with access to an automotive found that 1 1/2 dozen had driven beneath the influence of a drug aside from alcohol a minimum of once within the past year. Marijuana was the foremost common drug used, followed by cocaine and prescription pain relievers. Mental decline in older adults will cause taking a medicine a lot of or less typically than they must or within the wrong quantity. Older adults conjointly might not break down the drug in their system as quickly as younger folks. These factors will cause unintentional intoxication whereas behind the wheel of an automotive. What steps will folks desire forestall intoxicated driving? Because intoxicated driving puts folks at the next risk for crashes, public health specialists urge those who use medication and alcohol to develop social ways to forestall them from obtaining behind the wheel of an automotive whereas impaired. Steps folks will take include offering to be drove home or wherever, appointing a designated driver to require all automotive keys, getting a ride to and from parties wherever there square measure alcohol and/or medication, discussing the risks of intoxicated driving with friends prior to. Conclusion notes. Use of illicit medicine or misuse of prescribed drugs will build driving and automotive unsafe, just like driving once drinking alcohol. In 2018, 20.5 million folks aged 16 or older drove underneath the influence of alcohol within the past year and 12.6 million drove underneath the influence of illicit medicine. It's arduous to live what number crashes area unit caused by narcotized driving. However, estimates show that just about 44% of drivers in fatal automotive crashes tested positive for medicine. Driving underneath the influence of marijuana, opioids and alcohol will have profound effects on driving. People who use medicine and alcohol ought to develop social methods to stop them from obtaining behind the wheel of an automotive whereas impaired.